So today we're going to look at opaque, translucent, and transparent. And just by way of revision for you, an opaque object like my coffee cup is an object which blocks all light from passing through. And it does that in two ways. A lot of the light is reflected off the object, and a lot of the light is absorbed into the object. So an opaque object blocks all light. The second one we have is translucent. A translucent object like this frosted window allows most of the light to pass through, but along the way that light is scattered, and so our eyes can't perceive a clear image on the other side of that window, but what they can see is that the light is able to pass through. And the third we have translucent. For example, this clear window where you can clearly see the buildings on the other side. The light from the buildings is able to pass directly through the glass without being scattered, and our eyes can perceive a clear image. But what's really going on? Okay, let's recap. We know that white light is made up of the colors of the rainbow all mixed together. So we've got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And so what happens when this white light, which is a mix of all the colors, hits an opaque object like this piece of green card, the only color that's reflected is green. All the other colors are absorbed by that green item. And so our eyes perceive green and the other colors are absorbed. Notice that none of the light makes it through, and so this object is an opaque green object. So, an opaque object will either reflect or absorb all of the light rays. It allows none of them to pass through to the other side, and it blocks all light. By the way, the lighter color, for example a white object, the more it reflects, and the darker the color, the more it absorbs. So then we have translucent objects. A translucent object, we know, lets most of the light through. And in this example, you can see that the light rays are able to pass through, but along the way, they're scattered. Some are reflected, or a few light rays are reflected, and that's why we can perceive the object. But many of the light rays are scattered, and so our eyes can't see a clear image, but they can see that light has made it through. And finally, we have our transparent object, for example, the clear glass window, an object in which the light is able to pass through, and a little bit might be reflected, but the majority of the light is able to pass through, and you're able to see a clear image on the other side. Okay, so that's all good, and I think we have a good understanding of opaque, translucent, and transparent. But what happens if you have, for example, a transparent object which is colored, like the snow goggles that you can see in this picture? You can see that they're red. So in a colored transparent object, what is happening is that it's reflecting or absorbing all of the visible light except for the red. And here's a camera filter which is doing a similar thing. You can see most of the spectrum absorbed, and the red and infrared is allowed to pass through. And one more time, just because I did do this drawing, the torch here is producing visible white light. That piece of red plastic or red glass is absorbing or reflecting most of the light and allowing the red to pass through. The final thing I want to look at in this video is a translucent colored object. Here's an example of a stained glass window. It's a picture of Jesus' baptism by John the Baptist, and you can see a whole variety of translucent glass has been put together to make this beautiful piece of art. And this is how it works. So we have, just like the transparent colored object, the visible light rays moving towards this red piece of glass, or red piece of, let's call it red stained glass, and most of those colors are absorbed, and a few are reflected, but the red is allowed to pass through. As the red is passed through though, it's scattered. right? It's scattered, and so our eyes can see the light, the red light coming through, but they can't see a clear image of whatever it is on the other side that's the light source. So, in conclusion, we have opaque objects, which block all light from passing through, translucent objects, which allow scattered light to pass through, and transparent objects, which allow light to pass clearly through without being scattered.